Hey everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex and this is Big Baby Reviews. Today is Saturday and that means it's Eric Larson Day. Before we move on with this issue though, I want to talk about we are on the road to 250 subs, and once we do hit that magical number, we will have a bit of a celebration and a special video to commemorate that moment. I bring this up. I've looked at my analytics a little bit. I do appreciate my homegrown, fan base that I've got right now. My humble 150 subscribers. Appreciate it. Thank you so much for being there for me. But you are basically only 11% of the views that I get from my videos. The other 89%, I was astonished to find out, are basically people who are not subscribed. So if that is the case for you, if you're so inclined, you want to help out, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. That really helps us. It helps push us forward, helps us gain momentum, and helps get the channel put out there on YouTube so that other people can also partake and watch the videos. So if you could do that, I would very much appreciate it. Thank you so much. And now we're going to talk about this issue here. So Spider-Man issue 22, cover dated May 1992, nearing the end of Eric Larson's run on Spider-Man in the early 90s, just before he leaves to move on to Image Comics, becomes one of the founders there, works on his series Savage Dragon. There's, I believe, between the last few issues of this run and Savage Dragon, there's a bit of crossover. He's working on both comics in and around the same time. Quite the workhorse, Eric Larson. Starting with the cover, looks great. Lots of guest stars. I think I've talked in prior Eric Larson episodes. I feel like some of those guest stars are chosen by Eric Larson, and some of them are maybe editors saying, "Hey, could you throw in this new character we're trying to get over right into the comic?" Because obviously this was selling pretty well at the time. So Ghost Rider we've seen before. That makes sense. He's a popular character. Maybe Larson doesn't mind because he's fun to draw or something. But I'm pretty sure that's like, editors ask him to throw him in there. He's a new character in around this time, just like Sleepwalker, I think, is clearly the case. Ghost Rider's kind of cool. Sleepwalker, I mean, maybe kind of fun to draw, but when we get into the story, I'll point out a certain plot point there about Sleepwalker and talk about it then and how ridiculous I think it is. The Hulk, as I said, pretty sure Eric Larson just loves drawing the Hulk. Big, green, muscular guy. Good practice for moving on to Savage Dragon after that. I mean, right now you could shave the Hulk's head and throw in a fin, and that's pretty much the Savage Dragon there. And Deathlock has kind of a weird guest appearance in here. I don't know if Eric Larson's trolling a bit or he's just having a laugh. He was a newer version of Deathlock, so maybe he's kind of in the same boat as Ghost Rider and Sleepwalker. If I remember from my Marvel Universe cards, these were all, rookies in around this time, and they were trying to get their books across. They all had their own series, and maybe it wasn't selling so well. So, hey, Mr. Larson, would you mind throwing them in there and maybe trying to get a bit of shine on these characters so that people go and reach out for their regular series, which maybe happened for Ghost Rider. Deathlock and Sleepwalker, I think, disappeared pretty quickly, if I remember. It's not anything I was following. I do remember having some Ghost Rider issues and enjoying them. Was never into Sleepwalker and Deathlock much. Hulk, always been cool, right? Great cover overall. Not gonna, a lot of Kirby type action, a lot of foreshortening, some great Spider-Man agility, flexibility pose here. It's awesome. Well, I always like speed lines in the background. I think that's always a cool effect. And sometimes, people, manga lines, I guess is what they call them, or that comes from manga. I do want to point out that this tradition has been in American comics for years, right? It's not exclusively a manga thing. And a lot of manga, back in the 60s and 70s actually took inspiration from American comics, and, vice versa. Everything kind of crosses over eventually. So it's always a cool effect if done well in a cool action pose like we got on the cover here with our guest stars and with our main characters. One extra little bit that I want to mention that I like about this cover is just the simple use of white, right? So basically what this is the paper without any color, right, when it gets printed. But that harsh light on top here and the way it's cut. So Eric Larson actually drew in what would be the highlighted space here. So you've got a clear contour. Makes sense. But not on the Hulk here. And the colorist kind of chose to add some of that. Not sure it works everywhere, but I like the idea. And if you pull back and don't pay too much attention, the overall effect is pretty well done. And I just wanted to point that out because I thought that was pretty cool. I think it works probably a bit better on Spider-Man, not so much on the Hulk. Maybe if Larson had drawn the same kind of contour lines as he's got here to define those shapes, it would work a bit better. Colorist made a few choices, and some of those choices are a little odd. If the light's shining on top here, it wouldn't so much down here, but I'm just nitpicking. I think the overall effect is cool, and trying for something like that, I'm always going to encourage experimentation and trying new things. So let's break her open, have a look inside. I still think, I might be wrong, but this is after Erik Larsen had a house fire, and he's mentioned before that he was drawing on smaller pages. So some of the art looks a little more gritty, I guess is how I describe it. Maybe more immediate because of the situation as well. But I don't hate it. There's nothing about it that I think is worse than if he draws on bigger pages. Just maybe a little more direct and brutal, right? Not quite so detailed. So the sixth member is the title of the story. Erik Larsen, words and pictures. Chris Eliopoulos. Eliopoulos. There we go. I think I said it right. Letters. Gregory Wright, colors. And that's where we're going to stop. Those guys, I think I mentioned it before, but we'll follow Erik Larsen to the Savage Dragon, at least for the beginning there, for that first miniseries, I think. Cool shot of Dr. Octopus. I got to say, like, with this series, Larsen was able to make Dr. Octopus much more of a badass. You know, that's kind of what he's doing here. It's almost like, even though this is pre-image, he's imagifying, if that's a word that I can invent, some of these characters here for Marvel. You know, you see a bit in the background here, but they're all being outfitted with, you know, just, you've got the Vulture with an Uzi, right? Like, that's not, I wouldn't say that's something traditional or something that I would associate with the Vulture, but I love the visual. I think it looks really cool. We got a good bit of cartooning. The Vulture's one of those characters, I think his face is super fun to draw, right? He's just kind of ugly and craggly, kind of a, you know, muscular Mr. Burns, I guess. I've always enjoyed drawing his face. And Erik Larsen seems to as well, right? He makes him look like a Vulture, which is perfect, right? It just makes sense. So we've got our storytelling page, which, you know, I got to hand it to Erik Larsen. He does a good job here with all the different expressions, and even though it's the same subject, Peter Parker, all the way through, it's pretty interesting. I like it, right? Very expressive, slightly cartoony. Did want to mention, I didn't really notice it before, but flipping through this issue earlier, this cast that Spider-Man's wearing, I won't say ripped off, but definitely inspired from Ronin, right? By Frank Miller in the early 80s. Larsen has professed being, you know, a huge Erik Larsen fan, so I'm pretty sure that I'm sorry, Erik Larsen has professed to being a Frank Miller fan, and I'm pretty sure that's why we're getting this kind of design here. He's added some of his, you know, cybernetic stylings and flourishes that he likes to do, but this paneling here definitely inspired from Ronin. And Ronin himself totally inspired from Lone Wolf and Cub, which is a great Japanese comic that everyone should check out. Another great psychotic kind of shot of the Vulture with his Uzi, which I think is great. It just makes me laugh every time. The screen tone that he's using here, I think that looks cool. Like, there's something about it, the screen tone, that makes things feel, I don't know how to put it, like more serious or just more highbrow. I don't want to say that, but yeah, it adds an extra little layer of detailing that I think on certain art styles doesn't work quite as much, but on Erik Larsen, it looks cool. I like the aesthetic of it. Yeah, so these are more the Larsen flourishes, right? The cybernetic bull testicles all the way around the Spider-Man's cybernetic arm. These little detailings here, kind of a Jack Kirby deal. Love the shot of the Hobgoblin here, who's definitely inspired by the McFarlane 2 issues that he did, the storyline where the Hobgoblin's kind of thinks he's a demon, an actual demon. So that exaggerated McFarlane thing he's doing here, which a lot of the same tropes as Venom, right? Lots of teeth and spit and the tongue. Again, maybe I know Larsen's credited as pushing the tongue and the spit a lot with Venom. So I feel like he's doing a little bit more of that here. Just a weird detail. Like, is that in Hobgoblin's, like, his eyes wet from tears or trying to keep his eyes moist? Or is that some of the spit that he's spewing that just kind of flew into his own eye? Did he lick his own eye? Kind of weird. But I love panels like that lead you to question what's going on there. Pretty good storytelling overall. Like, he's not skimping on the panels, right? Again, the pedestrian, you know, romance, soap opera parts, right? He you know, Spider-Man's, it's always a good thing if instead of having your two characters, you know, just talking to each other, they're doing something while they're talking, right? Here's Spider-Man shaving himself, so, you know, it makes it so something is actually happening, not just a conversation, right? I think that's pretty clever. So yeah, we got the souped up Electro here. The Vulture again with a huge gun. I think that's awesome. So something crashes through the window. I guess we're going to find out a little later because we're getting interrupted once again with a bit of soap opera pages. Now they are talking to each other, and even then, Larsen does find a way to make it interesting, right? Close-up shots, medium shots, pull the back shots. You kind of pull out all the tricks in these pages to try to make them as interesting as possible, right? I always feel there's that tradition from romance comics in these kinds of pages. Kirby did, and again, you know, Larsen and the Image crew probably got that from Kirby or some of the 60s, 70s Kirby stuff, which, you know, again, he probably got from the fact that in the 50s and 60s, he did a lot of romance comics as well. Different type of storytelling, and I guess superhero comics, at least when there's a couple involved, seem to mix in those romance comic tropes. John Romita Sr., another guy who did a lot of romance comics back in the day, so he brought a lot of that to the 60s, 70s Marvel comics as well. This guy and his, I guess his costume just like washes off of him. It's kind of a weird, to me, he's just kind of a cheap Punisher ripoff. Solo, right? Yeah, so we're talking about guest stars when we're looking at the cover, and I think this is hilarious because here's the extent, I think, of Deathlock's guest starring in this issue. He's just been laid out, and a bunch of people are kind of crowding around him from S.H.I.E.L.D. and find him. And then we get back to the actual action here where the Sinister Six have basically just tried to take over a Hydra base, if I'm not mistaken. So this is what I mean here about the artwork being not cruder, I don't want to say that, but just not as detailed, thicker lines and stuff. I feel like this was done on smaller paper. But still looks great. Still looks really awesome. This is a great double page splash. All the lettering, I have to say, is done really well, right? Pretty clear, not hard to understand if you're, you know, your eyes are going around scanning. Pretty clear to see what each character is doing. Great Spider-Man shot. We got the anchor on this page, right? And all of a sudden we've got Sleepwalker here joining up with the Hulk and Ghost Rider, and they're gonna go obviously take on these guys. Once again, Ghost Rider, Larsen, I feel, is probably having fun drawing him. He's, again, pulling some of the McFarlane tropes, as he does with Venom and Hobgoblin, where one of the few artists to depict Ghost Rider, at least at this era, with pupils, right? Which was different and made it kind of cool. At least when McFarlane did it. Larsen continued that. We got another good proto-Savage Dragon shot here, this too, right? I mean, all of this super dynamic. Larsen is, you know, especially when it comes to action sequences, is nothing if not super dynamic. Stupid ads. All right, so we get a kind of money shot of Sleepwalker here. I guess that's, you know, editorially mandated here. I just like this small shot. It's just very good. Quick shot of Electro here. Just think it's very effective. We got the 90s vertical panels looking good. This iconic shot, which I think I saw in Wizard as well, of the Hulk. You know, this to me is kind of burned into my memory. So we got some more action, some interesting, you know, more of Larsen doing this where the characters overlapping a few different panels. Don't know how well it works here either. Like, it gets a little confusing, I find, over here. Maybe because of the colors too. Vulture's dark, so maybe the background should have been light here. That would have helped. Maybe it's more the colors. But some super dynamic shots of Ghost Rider here. I like this, how all of a sudden no more pupils and, you know, the back of his skull isn't dark. It's the same color as the fire. I thought that was a nice little touch here. You would assume Ghost Rider, if all biological matter burns away when he becomes Ghost Rider, that the skull is empty. There's no brain or anything in there, right? Interesting look there. I'm not quite sure. Maybe that's a coloring mistake. A bit of this yellow should have been in the eyes as well, I feel like. And yeah, so Sleepwalker, right? I was talking about this earlier, that when I'd get to it, I'd mention it. So Sleepwalker basically only comes out when this guy is sleeping, okay? Rick Sheridan. So, you know, Sleepwalker's there and all of a sudden he disappears, right? So easy way to get him out of the story there. Dang, when I saw the news on TV, I thought I'd grab a quick nap so that Sleepwalker could be released from my mind and help. I forgot that I was expecting company. Relax, Rambo, I'll be right there. So his dog kind of wakes him up and someone's, you know, ringing at the door. So the conceit is that, you know, once he wakes up, Sleepwalker disappears. Well, you know, this guy, how do you force sleep? Like, let's say, oh my God, there's a horrible situation going on and Sleepwalker needs to appear to help or whatever it is, right? There's an emergency. So I'm like, okay, let me sleep. Let me just calmly set the mood and relax, put some relaxing music, you know what I mean? Like, it would be much more interesting. Obviously, Marvel would never do this if Rick Sheridan, is taking massive amounts of sleeping pills to become the Sleepwalker, and obviously, develops a sort of addiction and is obviously put in danger because of that. Maybe that would have been a little more interesting, would have sold more, but it's just such a strange conceit. I could see why the series didn't last very long. Every time Sleepwalker's needed, this guy has to fall asleep. Like, how, do you force yourself to fall asleep? Do you know what I mean? Like, you fall asleep when you're tired. You don't push yourself to fall asleep. It seems counterproductive and probably wouldn't work very well. And here we are, Spider-Man. The cast has been blasted off, but that's fine because it said that, his arm is maybe next issue, but basically it's healed at this point. Spider-Man does heal a bit faster than most people. And all of a sudden this giant monster arm comes out and we're left with the last page, Larsen bringing in kind of a classic Kirby monster here. He's a fan of Kirby, so he's a fan of drawing those big monsters, I'm pretty sure. I've seen some of his character designs that resemble them, so I think it's something he likes, the textures and stuff. I would say probably something that's really fun to draw. And leaving us on a pretty good splash page here until next issue, where I believe, let's see, next, the stunning conclusion. It is the last issue. So next issue, we'll be looking at that, which will be Erik Larsen's last issue before he moves on to Image Comics and Savage Dragon. So there you go. That was the review for Spider-Man issue 22 by Erik Larsen. Please, we are on the road to 250 subs, so please like and subscribe if you like what I'm putting up there. Once we hit that number, we'll have a special vid in store for you viewers out there. So like and subscribe, keep the channel burning, and hope everyone out there has an awesome day.
Like! Subscribe! Like! Subscribe!
King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13, 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at KINGCOMICS.CA, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.